we've had quite a few years of Borthwick now. I don't think he wants to be chopping and changing.
No. You're going to see continuity. This continuity selection did start last year,
and I wouldn't put Ireland as favourites in Chicago, even though they're going to have a massive sort of home in inverted commas support.
Can you see a future in which he's wearing white again?
A guy who can play 10-12, Owen can come in and do that for you without missing a beat.
No.
And you're getting leadership, you're getting calls, you can see the impact he's had on Fergus Burke, Saracens. They're playing better rugby.
Noah Calouri walked past, I think, at one point, and he said, that's the bloke you should be talking about.
And it would be a real blow to Steve Borthwick if England lost on Saturday.
Home to the Emirates Dubai Sevens, Dubai is the ultimate sporting break, with a packed events calendar every year, including the DP World Tour Golf Championship and the Dubai Tennis Championships. There are lots of opportunities to witness world-class sport in action. And if you're looking to have your own active adventure holiday, you'll be spoilt for choice, whether that's hitting the paddle court or hiking the mountains of Hatta. Plan your getaway at visitdubai.com.
The leaves are turning colour, the nights are getting darker, and autumn test rugby is back. Welcome to the Telegraph Rugby podcast. My name is Alan Dymock. I'm a commissioning editor for sport here. And I am joined, as ever, by Charles Richardson.
Hello.
And welcoming into the studio, Gavin Mairs. Gavin, how are you? Welcome.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, lovely to be here. Makes a change from those late night calls from Perth and Adelaide and Sydney. And
last time we saw you, you had a breeze block background in some stadium somewhere in Australia.
Yeah. Trying to get Wi-Fi.
I was going to say connection issues. 404 error.
Charles, how are you?
Very well. Looking forward to the autumn. Enjoyed the Prem. Great round that we've come into the autumn from, and looking forward to seeing some more good stuff on the pitch.
Yeah, I think we can officially say we are into the World Cup cycle. Lots of Test rugby to come. Some stars that we need to be talking about with England's selection. There are other nations we need to be turning our eyes to as well. We'll be chatting all things autumn rugby. Lions Tour, distant memory, focusing on England. We've got a big old Ireland matchup to come, and all things talking about the other home nations. This is Test rugby, and we'll get stuck into it all now. Gentlemen, and I'll start with you on this, Gav. Steve Borthwick has named his squads for this one. No Tom Willis in this. We sort of knew that was coming thanks to some sterling work from yourself uncovering that one. Firstly, I think it would be good to know how that came about and how much of a surprise it was that Tom Willis, having opted to go to France, was not going to be involved anyway.
Personally, I found I was very surprised by the news. Tom Willis had come back from France specifically to further his international ambitions, and he'd just got to the position where he'd become the starting number 8 without doubt. And at the age of 26, his profile, his form, his size, people I talked to in the game, somebody described him, I likened him to the great Dean Richards, the kind of power he can bring, the running lines, explosiveness. It seemed like England had got a solution to their number 8 problem that Steve Borthwick's trying to bring solved for the last 2 years. So for Tom to step away at this point, knowing that we are now in, as you've said, to the lead into the World Cup, to return to the top 14 and make himself unavailable from next year, officially, it just it came as a surprise.
Yeah,
and he was great on tour. He was great on tour, wasn't he? He was really good in Argentina. And you're right, Gav, it looked like they'd found a solution to number 8. Certainly when we were looking at a squad for this weekend against Australia, Tom Willis would have been in everybody's side at number 8, wouldn't he? He'd have been a banker. And to be honest, there's probably many people who would still pick him because he is still eligible, obviously. But now, as I'm sure we'll come on to, the back row looks murky, it looks hazy, everyone wants to know what he's going to do, but one thing is for sure, there is a paucity of number 8s, of world-class people who can step up at test level and play number 8 for England.
Would you have stuck with him?
No, I wouldn't have done. He is the best number 8 in England at the minute, the best English qualified number 8, but Steve Borthwick's made the right call, I think, because he has to think about the World Cup. And if Tom Willis has decided to go and not be eligible for the World Cup, then he has to find a number 8. He has to find somebody. He has to find a back row that can compete against world-class teams without Tom Willis, and he has to do that quickly. And he doesn't have many games full stop from now until the World Cup to build a squad. But he certainly doesn't have that many games to start again, start fresh, reset a number 8.
Would you agree with that, Gav?
Yeah, I completely agree. For two reasons, really, Al. As Charles says, if you're ruling yourself out of the World Cup, Borthwick has to start developing players, looking at options. There aren't that many tests left before then. But also there's a second thing of team dynamics, if you're saying to a guy who's not starting on Saturday below Tom Willis, well, he's not even going to be here next year, it just adds another layer of complexity to the team dynamics, which at an international level can be challenging as it is. So it's a massive shame for England fans, for Borthwick, but it's a brave call by Borthwick. The easiest option for him is to pick him on Saturday because he's emerging into a world-class number 8. And it's just so sad to see a guy get to this point and not be able to express himself. England, will go into this World Cup thinking they can win it, and you're actually deciding not to be part of that.
It's an interesting one because the schedule can kind of help you a bit, and we will talk about Australia in a little bit, but actually the fact that they can't pick their full strength squad because this test is technically outside of the international window, you can actually slip someone in. It's an interesting one though, where you can turn around and be like, well, your teammate who's not playing number 8 will potentially be England's number 8. How would you go about selection, Charles? For the back row?
I think... What have I picked? I've picked Tom Curry was a surprise. I think a surprise inclusion yesterday. I don't think everyone was expecting him to be fully fit for Australia. I would start him at 7, and I think alongside him I'd probably go back to Ben Earl at 8 and have Guy Pepper at 6. What I would say is that there isn't an out number 8. There is a lack of real big meaty ball carriers, as England have had a problem with that for a while.
Basically since Billy Vunipola went.
Correct. But it looked like Tom Willis was the sort of cure to that, and now he's gone. And with the pace of England's back 3 that they could have, with Arundel and Freeman and Fewa-Boso and Roebuck, whoever they pick, they just have to play quickly. And I think Borthwick will acknowledge that. They have to play at pace, and so you pick a back row to match that. You don't pick people to do things that they can't. And I think they have to go sort of all guns blazing, play really fast, get that back 3 moving, and then pick a back row to match that. And I think they will. And Curry runs, Pepper runs, Earl runs. They're all quick. They all cover a lot of yards, and they cover a lot of turf across the course of an 80 minutes. All of the England back rows do, to be fair, but I would resist the temptation to maybe pick a Cunningham South at 8. I think Ilioni might have been a rogue shout at 8. I think there was a chance. Borthwick is a big fan. I think he was unlucky not to go on the Argentina tour. Borthwick is a big fan, and he does carry with punch.
He's a robust bloke.
He is a robust bloke, and he has been unfortunate with a shoulder injury. So, but I think in lieu of a Willis or an Ilioni, they have to just change tack, and they have to say, right, we don't have that player, so let's not try and turn Ben Earl into a tight quarters ball carrier. Let's play.
Okay, now with that, because there's lots of talking points around England at the moment, and it's funny coming off of, a summer where, and Charles could talk to us till the cows come home about what it was like in Argentina, largely about steak. We might end up talking about rugby at some point. You could talk about the guys that came through and all that. Obviously, the Lions tour let us see a couple of these England guys on a step up. But it's sort of, the picture still is ever changing with England at this point in time, 2 years out. And that's notwithstanding the coaching changes. And we will talk about that. But one of the biggest talking points at the moment, Gavin, I'm really interested in your take on this, is the fly half position. Because we're coming into this with 3 guys that could play 10 for England, who are playing exceptionally good rugby. And I don't imagine anyone would say that any of them have enormous weaknesses, but they all bring something different. How do you see that playing out, and what do you think the coaches' conversations were around? I mean, it's a kind of a good problem to have, but also is a headache.
It's a fantastic problem to have, really, and funny, if you look at what Australia, their problems at 10 coming for this weekend, they're absolute shortage of depth.
Well, and they can't pick James O'Connor, can they?
Yeah, nope. Exactly. No, I think what is going to happen really is you're going to settle down on a battle between George Ford and Finn Smith. I think Marcus Smith has dropped down in the pecking order to be a starting 10. I think he's going to be a great utility back for England, but I think we're going to see George Ford had a brilliant summer tour. Finn Smith, not a great Lions tour. And again, that dynamic of, if you're Steve Borthwick, do you reward the team that played so well for you against Argentina while bleeding in some of the Lions players? So that's another issue you've got to deal with. I think Ford at the minute is probably has played more rugby at the start of the year because he wasn't involved with the Lions. Finn Smith has come strong. I was up at Northampton on Friday night. He played brilliantly then. So that is going to be a very tight call. Right now, I probably think he'll go with George Ford, but I think both will be involved.
It's going to be really interesting, Gav, because whichever one misses out of those two probably won't be in the 23 at all, because you've got Marcus.
Yeah,
who can cover 10 and who might play 15.
And it feels very much like Stewart should be at 15 for England.
Yeah, I mean, again,
certainly the way
the back
playing.
three is just as interesting as the back row, because I mean, he could put. There is no reason why Tommy Freeman could not play fullback for England in terms of his skill set. In terms of what he brings to the party, he's done it for Saints. He's never done it for England, but he's versatile. He's played 30. He started a test at 13 for England. There's no reason why he couldn't start at 15, and then that allows you to have two pacemen out wide. You could have Fable. So I mean, I think I would have had Radwan in the squad, but he's not been included, and so you've got Arundel, maybe Fable, so Roebuck, and you can go, and then that's a properly quick back three. Stewart obviously has super strengths. Speed is not one of them. Tying into the back row piece about playing quickly, I would go for a rapid back three with a rapid back row. But yeah, I mean, could Marcus start at 15? That would then allow him to pick two out and out centres rather than two out and out ball carrying centres, rather than maybe having a Dingwall at 12.
What would you do though? Because it feels an awful lot like we're talking about chopping and changing still. A lot, and we've had quite a few years of Borthwick now. I don't think he wants to be chopping and changing.
No. You're going to see continuity. This continuity selection did start last year, so I think as we get towards Australia 27, you're going to see him really narrowing down on a 26-7 squad that gets a lot of games in. Because again, you know what? One concern, if you look at the back line as it is, there's not many players there have experienced the World Cup campaign before.
No,
so you've got to get guys at least with a lot of caps under their belt going into Australia. And another thematic thing, Al, about the 10, if you look across the other top nations, there's not many teams actually have a settled 10 at the minute, probably outside of Finn Russell at Scotland. And I think we're probably going to see a little bit of that this current trend at the minute of coaches picking 10, you know, we've got 2 10s who do different things.
Horses for courses,
a little bit more of a horses for courses selection, that you're not pinning around the way, say, Ireland with Sexton, Scotland with Finn Russell, that sort of identity built around the 10, I think is going to be a little bit more fluid, certainly in going towards this next World Cup.
And you better all deliver, because there's a guy at Saracens who we've not even spoken to yet. Although that feels like a break in case of emergency thing, or is it, Gav?
Alex Good coming out of retirement.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, we'd feel remiss not to touch on the Owen Farrell stuff. Yeah. And you've obviously done a lot of good stuff around Owen recently, and spoken to him one-on-one in the recent past as well as. And it feels. Can you see him? I just want to nip this one in the bud early doors, actually, to be honest, until the action starts. Can you see a future in which he's wearing white again?
It's a really, really good question, Al. So I think there's 2 things on this.
Thank you.
Yeah, as ever. I think really a lot of it's going to come down to Owen. Does he want to play again? Because if you are an England head coach going 27 and we're talking about that lack of experience in the back line, to have someone like Owen Farrell in your World Cup squad, whether he's in the bench or, as we saw with the Lions, you're buying in a baked ready test match player who, and we know the impact he has, just his presence in training. And I remember talking to Steve Borthwick before the 23 World Cup, and he was saying, just Owen being there, everyone lifts their standards by 10-15%. So you have that option as an England head coach. Now, again, form has to be key to this.
Yeah, I don't think he gets in at 10.
Well,
at the minute.
Yeah.
At the minute.
Yeah. Oh, he's only, obviously he's not playing down. And you can see, I think, by the looks of his club thinking, he's starting at 12. He's got bigger. So yeah. I think he's actually cutting himself to play 12. But again, the key thing is with the Lions is the versatility. If you're looking at a guy who can play 10-12, Owen can come in and do that for you without missing a beat.
No.
And you're getting leadership, you're getting calls. You can see the impact he's had on Fergus Burke at Saracens. They're playing better rugby with him outside him. So,
but Scotland says thank you, Owen.
But honestly, it's like I think the Lions is one thing, and we know now that he actually turned down the opportunity when he was first asked to tour the Lions. So that shows you...
He has self-awareness around where his situation.
Knowing how much that would have meant to him as well, to turn down a Lions position would show you where he is, where he would have been mentally at that point. So again, for him to step back into the England sort of cauldron, the white noise around that, he'll want to be in a good place and really enjoying his rugby. And I think it'll be really important for him to feel that he's earned it.
Just to look inside the tent, for those that read the Telegraph Sport and our fantastic output, is sometimes when we're getting dispatches from press conferences, for example, guys will send in the transcript. And it was funny, Owen Farrell, who we were just talking about there, at the start of the season was up in the press and we was looking at the transcript. And one of the first things he said, sort of as the sort of gentle introductions to everybody, was Noah Calouri walked past, I think, at one point, and he said, "That's the bloke you should be talking about."
I was there.
And
really?
or was it Itoje that said that? Actually, I might be getting
no, it was Farrell.
It was Farrell.
Yeah.
And so that, how about that for a segue, Charles?
Brilliant.
Is young lad from Saracens, by all accounts, and he's gone down to playing the champ this season and bounced straight back up, and just looks to the manner born, has a skill set that a lot of people are talking about AFL and basketball. I don't imagine we're going to be seeing him in these tests. He'll be there to gather experience, but there's that sense of, you're talking about the rapid back three. He feels like a sort of new generation that's sort of banging on the door, and we've only just seen this guy.
Yeah, I mean, 5 tries in a Prem game. I mean, that is staggering, really. I mean, you say he won't feature. I mean, they are playing Fiji, and he was in as a development in the mini camp, as a development, as a specific, like, sort of apprentice in inverted commas. He wasn't called that, but Eddie Jones and his apprentices. Yeah. And now he is a full member of the squad. So there's clearly a chance, because he's not in as a development player this time. I mean, it probably is too soon. It's quite funny after that Saracen Sale game where Mark McCall was saying, yeah, he's great, but he's not the finished article yet, and what we need to do is just take our time and let him go. And he's straight in the England squad. Cheers, Steve. Mark saying it was quite funny. Mark was like, everybody just calm down. He scored 5 tries. He has some fantastic physical attributes, but he's not the finished article yet, and we just need to take our time with him. And he might be winning a debut at 19 in the autumn, less than a month on.
Let's see, but there certainly is a bit of buzz around him, Gav.
It's fantastic. And as you say, keen-eyed readers of the Telegraph will have noticed who the breakthrough player of the year
I was wondering when you were going to drop this one. It was going to be someone from Saracens. It's just Gav was going to pick.
I mean, serious point. I do think that having him in over Radwan is incredibly...
You did warn you were going to come off your long run about this.
I think that Adam Radwan has been playing very, very well, and it is straight, and he was very good on Saturday, and Noah Calouri on Friday night looked a little bit more subdued. So, and Radwan obviously was in the mini camp last week, so whatever he did, he clearly did not enamour himself too well with the England coaches.
I'm imagining a lot of it was with balls in the air.
Well, aerially, he's looked really good for Leicester this season, and his defence has been great. I think genuinely, and I mean this, I think his form is better than that of Henry Arundel. I've been to Bath twice. I've watched every single one of Bath's games. Henry Arundel has world-class moments, but he's been going missing a little bit. He doesn't go looking for work. He is there is no denying he's absolutely rapid, and he has world-class potential. But I think on form, I think Radwan is in better nick at the minute than Henry Arundel. So I would have given him at least a shot in the squad, Radwan, even if he doesn't start. Because he brings something a bit like Caluori. He has a super strength, and that has been Borthwick's modus operandi ever since he became a coach was super strength. If someone can do something that's world class, do that. Let's not try and make someone do something that they can't do. Let's focus on Freddie Stewart. He did it with Leicester. Jasper Wiese. Okay, you're not a good ball handler. You're a great ball carrier. Just carry. Freddie Stewart, diffuse bombs, and we'll build a team around people who can do things brilliantly. So I'm surprised that he hasn't rolled the dice slightly with Radwan, given that he has something, that acceleration, that off-the-mark speed that nobody else has.
Well, I must admit, I think you have to play it canny as coaches sometimes, and it's like rolling the dice, particularly if Gav's right, and saying that we're going to start seeing more refinement, more reliance on certain players over and over again. It doesn't surprise me that if you're going to roll the dice on someone, maybe it's someone that we haven't seen at this level rather than someone that we have seen at this level and hasn't set the heather alight.
And I completely agree, but then why call him into the minicamp last week?
Because you need bodies.
Well, yeah, but you could have had Caluori in properly. That's my point.
That's
Is that why call him in and then just let him go a week later? You know, I completely agree. We've seen Adam Radwan on the international stage. Borthwick clearly thinks he knows what he can do and what he brings, and that's fine. I'm completely fine. And if you don't think that will translate to international level, that's fine. But then why have him in last week?
On Al's point, you've seen a kid come through, instantly make an impact in the Premiership, and I think with international coaches struggle with it. This is their challenge, always is Prem form. How much you put down to Prem. Prem form is so far from Test rugby.
Yeah,
you're looking at, it's the same when you talk about Ireland, URC. It's miles away from what they'll face against the All Blacks. So as head coaches, they are constantly looking at players. What is their ceiling? Can they? You look at Caluori. Can you see him playing at some role in Sydney in 2 years' time? Bringing in an X factor to the England side. It's not necessarily about the here and now. His physique,
he does look like he should be on an oval in Australia somewhere in terms of physique.
Well, it's almost the reverse argument of Tom Willis, isn't it? I mean, it is literally of let's get him in now for 2 years' time. Well, it's sort of the same logic, but in the reverse form, i.e., we're not going to have Tom Willis in because of 2 years' time. Yeah. So let's get the 19-year-old in who will be 21 in 2 years' time.
And he'll grow, and whether he plays a role in the autumn or not, he's going to grow experience-wise, playing in the England environment, getting to know the calls, getting to know how Borthwick operates, the coaches, what they want of him, and also setting the tone of like what it means to be a Test player. You're coming out of school, you're coming into Saracens, you think you've made it or you're making it, but actually to become a Test player is way up here.
Yeah.
So it's like who actually has the hunger, ambition, going beyond what it takes to be a really good club player.
Yeah.
Not everybody has that, even if you're blessed with the incredible skills.
And you're right on the differences because although Northampton Saracens on Friday night, a fantastic game of rugby, rightfully praised, but it was nearly 70 points, wasn't it? How often do you get that at Test level, whereby you saw Finn Smith, JJ van der Mest missing one-on-one tackles with uncharacteristic like Finn Smith is a fabulous defender, and you see them missing, uncharacteristically missing one-on-one tackles. That doesn't happen at Test level. Yeah. That just doesn't happen.
Or if it does, it's 7 points.
Yeah, precisely.
And I do want to talk about Australia, but last thing on England specifically, there is one winger who is stepping up to international level, and that is Byron McGuigan. As a coach, he's coming into the England setup. And Gav, it does feel like the one place where Steve Borthwick has had no problems at all with changing things up and changing things up often is with his coaching team. You and I chatted very briefly before we came into studio here about, who does what now with this England team. But what do you make of the changes to England's backroom team and what it says about the direction that this group's going in?
I think it's very significant. So I'm working on a piece this week, which should be in the Telegraph later on this week, on Steve Borthwick's kind of evolution as a coach. And I think for the first time, we're probably seeing Steve assemble a coaching team kind of that is of his vision and of his personalities. And he has also evolved as a coach where he's bringing in someone like Brian McGuigan, who we will challenge him.
Yeah.
There's a sense of a bit more self-confidence to bring in people who, I'm not saying anyone was ever a yes man, but when he got the gig 9 months out of the World Cup, it was a hospital pass, and he
brought people with him who knew all of his quirks
from club games. Like, come with me, we're going to do this. You have to have people you can trust in an international environment, and but no one knows just how challenging it is with the pressure. You saw he's had to be almost like a piecemeal approach. Some people have worked, some people have left. Now it feels like he's got a really nice balance. Lee Blackett's coming in, brilliant attack coach, and it'd be really interesting now. This needs to settle down. We've got 2 years, and I think it's a coaching ticket that it feels like it's his coaching ticket, and it's we will see obviously how they play. But
the one thing as well, on just quickly on those two, is they are both great blokes. They're both very big personalities. The players like them. They are outgoing, outspoken,
so just to give a bit of
chaps.
context here, is Byron McGuigan's come in as an assistant with Sale Sharks on defence, played in the back three for Sale in Scotland, as well as sort of played all over, and he's come in and he's had a very short stint as a coach, but has risen very rapidly.
They were both obviously seconded for the Argentina tour, both Lee Blackett and Byron McGuigan, and you saw it there. And I think just finally on the coaching piece is that Steve Borthwick, he had Aled Walters, who filled that role as sort of a jokey, obviously very serious, very good S&C coach, but somebody that the players all liked, and it was very jokey and matey. Then he left, and then I don't think that sort of almost pastoral sector was necessarily as fulfilled as it is now with Byron and with Lee Blackett, who on tour were thick as thieves, and the players loved them, and the culture and the harmony of that playing group in Argentina really did stick with Steve Borthwick. He said it in the post-match press conference. He said, "I want to bottle the spirit of La Plata and take it with us everywhere we go." And that it was not a coincidence that Byron McGuigan and Lee Blackett were there. That is not coincidental,
and that comes from a man who drank lots of bottles in La Plata.
Yeah.
What do you make of, I'm sticking with you, Charles, what did you make of Australia and what they've got to come up against this weekend?
Well, obviously they had that narrow victory over Japan that they're coming off, but it was sort of a B team, really. It was good, but even so, an Australia second 15 should still be beating Japan, so it was good that they didn't lose. What is in their favour this weekend at Twickenham is that they have continuity, they are match ready, they know everybody, they know each other. England are coming in fresh, which might even things up a little bit, but England should still be beating Australia. They should have won last year. They still should be winning this Saturday with the players that Australia are missing: James O'Connor, Will Skelton, Tom Hooper, Lenny Kitau, and others. With that side, obviously Australia had a very, they were above par in the Rugby Championship. In another world, in another reality, they could have nicked that Lions series, but England, it would be a real disappointment, and it would be a real blow to Steve Borthwick if England lost on Saturday. I don't think there's any getting around that. I think they need to win. I think a narrow loss against New Zealand while playing well, I think the fans could probably take that. They need to win 3 of 4.
Gav, Australia, you saw them up close on the Lions tour. You saw them steadily improving. They've played an awful lot of rugby since then.
Yeah.
As Charles listed there, there's some names missing for them. What are you expecting from them at Twickenham? And do you think that they can reach a level against a team that they love beating, by the way? Would you think that what level do you think they can hit on their best day?
I think the big problem they've got is at 10 and 12. So for a Joe Schmidt side, that's a critical position. Mm-hmm. Obviously, the likes of Skelton not being available, Hooper not being available, takes something out of their pack. But really, I mean, I think it's going to be probably Tane Edmed starting at 10, who in the last year have been playing club rugby level in Australia. So we talk about the abundance of riches for England at 10, where Steve Borthwick goes. Noah Calouri as well. He's a real glue player. He's a clever decision making, punches holes, can offload. So if you look at the Australian team on paper, and as we saw against the Lions, great athletes. Schmidt has done a brilliant job at knitting them together, giving them a direction. My concern would be at that kind of 10-12 position, do they have the experience there to manage a game at Twickenham? As Charles raises the point, though, England's biggest risk is being undercooked. And in some sense, this game is almost more dangerous to England than, say, playing the All Blacks later in the autumn, where they're going to be together in camp longer and more battle-hardened and more cohesive. Mm-hmm. This game, England will have to find a way to hit the ground running, and that's going to be their biggest challenge against a seasoned Australian team. But my one point is that weakness at the key playmaking role is one area that I'd be worried for them.
There you go. Well, England plays Australia this Saturday. We will be bringing you all the reaction from that one. Next, though, we're going to be turning our attention to Chicago.
Home to the world-renowned Emirates Dubai Sevens. Dubai is the ultimate destination for a sporting break. With a packed events calendar every year, including the DP World Tour Golf Championship and the Dubai Tennis Championships. There are lots of opportunities to witness world-class sport in action. Away from the stands, you'll find plenty of ways to have an active adventure holiday of your own. Try your hand at paddle, the world's fastest growing sport. Walk the breathtaking hiking trails of the Hatter Mountains. Or rent a bike and cycle alongside spectacular skylines. The only problem will be deciding which you want to do first. Swap the winter chill for sunshine and plan your sporty getaway at visitdubai.com.
I'm going to stick with you for this, Gav. Ireland returned to Soldier Field in Chicago, where they had arguably, given their World Cup record, arguably their greatest day on a rugby pitch.
That was a bit catty.
Yeah, well, yeah, maybe, perhaps a bit harsh, but certainly a historically significant day they had at Soldier Field when they beat New Zealand for the first time. They're back there, first game of them for November, and in the back of my head, it feels a little bit like the Rolling Stones. So, the old guys are going on tour again. There's certainly a familiar feel to this Ireland group.
Oh, massively, yeah. And again, you look at, it's sort of no coincidence Andy Farrell, having just coached the Lions, a very Ireland-heavy Lions squad, is just bringing that with him. And so, again, very similarly to England, you're looking at the concern there is just how undercooked they could be. I think some of the Lions players have had one match, if that. Caelan Doris hasn't played a game yet, as coming back as captain from his shoulder injury. So it's interesting that Farrell's taken the squad to Chicago a week early. So he pulled them all out of this last weekend's round of URC matches. So again, it shows that emphasis of they feel they can get more out of being in camp together than necessarily playing against the Lions or whatever in URC. So the big challenge is going to be, can they rediscover their Lions form, having a lot of those Leinster boys looked very rusty in their defeat against Munster.
Do you think that he's Farrell in terms of one eye on the World Cup? Do you think he's right to be loyal to those guys who are not too old, clearly, to perform at test level, but they might be getting there in a couple of years' time? Yeah. Do you think he needs to refresh it a bit, or would you continue going on with? I
think what you see with that, I mean, it's interesting, Charles. The numbers in Ireland just aren't the same as England. You don't get a Caluori just coming out from nowhere. Yeah. They know every player. Yeah. So they're always thinking about this and short-term, medium-term projects. So you've seen since the World Cup, they have infused a few younger players, and most notably Sam Prendergast, who was 21, straight in as a starting 10. Yeah. That was partly to get him a highly talented player, but very raw. Can he cope with international rugby? But also the plus side of that is creating a rivalry with Jack Crowley. Now, you've seen Jack Crowley respond to that. Yeah. So already he's become a better player because of that. I think if you look at the general age profile, there are certainly some key players getting into their early 30s to mid 30s. Again, it's in Ireland, they can manage the players much better in terms of, we saw Johnny Sexton get there at 38. Rory Best was captain at 37 in the previous World Cup. They have a way of managing players who, the number of miles on the clock is the key thing here. But I think you will see, even this squad, and I know there's kind of a context of he's just gone with Leinster, but these guys just playing Alliance.
21 Leinster players, by the way, in this Ireland squad. Yeah, just a few.
Yeah, and on the fly half point, Crowley's in fine form for Munster. Yeah, would you stick with Prendergast? Do you think he'll stick with Prendergast, or do you think it's now 50-50?
Oh, it's definitely 50. I would say so, because Crowley kind of finished the Six Nations. It won back the position. Prendergast hasn't played that well for Leinster, but again, I'm not sure how much stock they put on that, really. Yeah. But what you can't deny is that Crowley has responded exactly as Andy Farrell would have wanted him to. conditioning wise, you can see he's put a lot of work in over the summer. He's working with psychologists. He's working on his kicking. Game management is key for Jack Crowley. Place kicking accuracy. So all that seems to have improved. Right now, you think he has to be the guy to start for all those reasons. It's nothing's set in stone there. It's like, who wants it more? Who's up for it? But also then you have to have that, like, as we talked before with Caluori, like, what's the ceiling? Prendergast has obviously been identified a player who's going to be a special talent, but it's up to him to kind of grow into that role.
Yeah.
And I think they took quite a bold decision last year to go, we're going to give this guy a start to see, and that builds rivalry.
Yeah.
And we're getting into one of those great Irish out-half rivalries that I grew up with.
Yeah.
That can only be the head coach's friend when you have two guys really gunning it out for that. But overall, the point, I think you're going to have to see some freshening up. Interestingly for me, Paddy McCarthy, the loose head, and I know he's another Leinster player, but he's Joe's younger brother and is meant to be as physical, as menacing. He's been brought along. You've got Tom Clarkson at tight head, so there's another young tight head there. So I think really, if you look at the age profile, the key thing will be centres. And we've got Jamie Osborne, Jude Prostlewaite as well from Ulster coming through, and 9. So Craig Casey, 26. Nathan Doak playing well for Ulster at the minute, who's sort of early 20s. So I think you'll see players being drip fed in. But what Andy Farrell doesn't do is just start again.
Yeah.
He's just not that coach. And there's a loyalty in a player. If he thinks you're delivering for him, and we saw the Lions, he knew Tag Byrne and Tom Curry were two players. He said he didn't look at the form really of how it was going. He said, you're a big match player. I back you. Now, if you don't deliver, that's a different story.
Yeah.
But then they both delivered, and Tag Byrne ends up playing the series.
I mean, we should know this by now from Andy Farrell as well. I mean, cast our minds back to when he first took over from Joe Schmidt, and he had pretty tough first year in charge, and everyone's saying, why do you keep picking these guys? And he just sort of kept his head down, didn't address it in any way, and then suddenly those guys came into form, and it was like quality here, there, and everywhere.
Yeah.
Thing is we're some years down the line from that now.
Yeah.
Charles, I want to come to you on, because I mentioned at the start the cultural significance of playing in Chicago, and it's just, in fact, just seeing it written down now sort of blew my mind. 2016, it was 9 years ago that match happened. It feels like it was only yesterday.
Yeah.
Huge moment, and it was a massive moment for Irish rugby. You got to say, though, fantastic motivation for the All Blacks. And I remember the build-up to that game where they were, I think they were at the Chicago Blackhawks ice hockey game, and they were sending out the first puck, and there was there was guys cutting around in basketball jerseys everywhere, and they were doing all of the promo and all that kind of stuff. And then they got caught out on the day, obviously an emotionally charged day at Chicago, standing in the figure 8 in tribute to the late Anthony Foley and all of that sort of stuff. But looking at it the other way, the Kiwis are going to use that as huge motivation playing in Chicago against Ireland. What do you make of New Zealand at the moment and how they come out of that rugby championship, where for all that they said, it's maybe not up to it, they still went down to the wire with them in South Africa?
Yeah, and on another day they could easily have won that rugby championship. They're always dangerous, aren't they? People say that this is they're going through a bit of a lull at the minute, New Zealand, but I don't think anyone who plays them...
I'd kill for their lulls.
Yeah, precisely. I mean, they've still got tons of world-class players, a coach who has, dominated the domestic scene. They're always dangerous, aren't they? Nothing against them is a foregone conclusion. Like, nobody will ever go into a game against New Zealand in New Zealand and be favourites, and it's very rare that it would happen. I wouldn't put Ireland as favourites in Chicago, even though they're going to have a massive sort of home, in inverted commas, support. It would still be, I don't know what the odds are, but you'd still back New Zealand to win, as you would have done in 2016, and as you probably would almost every single time they've played Ireland. But Ireland the gap has been narrowed. Undoubtedly.
It's a really good point, Charles. I mean, undoubtedly, All Blacks, you'd have to make them strong favourites. Just even that thing of playing together, and Ireland are just coming together for the first time. But it's interesting. It's actually become almost like a grudge match. And that's a huge. I mean, I grew up Ireland, seeing Ireland lose to pretty much everyone, but also always the All Blacks.
Yeah.
the fact that you talk about 2016 also winning the series down in 22, and went to 1-1.
Huge, yeah.
That was a moment, and you could see for the All Blacks, they kept that for the quarterfinal.
100%.
And in a way, it was almost like, although a lot was made of Ireland not ever getting past quarterfinals, the fact that New Zealand regarded that as a game they desperately wanted to win shows you how the position, the status of the two sides have changed.
I mean, I think I just casting my mind back to 2023 World Cup, I did think that Ireland would beat New Zealand in the quarters, but I'd be interesting to know, I don't know if either of you can remember, what the bookies made of it, and were Ireland favourites with the bookies? I mean, even then.
Yeah. I mean, they
might not have been
one at that point, but yeah. Yeah, I can't remember.
But I mean, New Zealand completely, it wasn't like, it was a phenomenal game. I think we were both there, Dims, if I remember correctly, in 2023.
Yes, yeah.
And it was a phenomenal game, a phenomenal weekend in Paris with those two quarterfinals.
One of the best atmospheres I can remember.
Yeah.
Exceptional.
Yeah, and New Zealand completely deserving of their victory, and that's what we're saying. You can never write them off. They have just such an abundance of talent, such natural athletes, such natural footballing ability across. It's just embedded in their culture that you can, a bit like Australia in fairness, but you just can never ever write them off, and they will always be good. They'll have peaks and troughs like every team, but their troughs are not as low as what other nations' troughs will be ever.
Yeah.
So just very quickly on Ireland with you, Charles, is what do you fear? What is the most scary element of this All Blacks group at the moment?
I think probably the back row. Their back row is absolutely brilliant. New Zealand back row is up there as one of the best in the world, and if you let them get on top of you with the players that they've got coming through as well, which we saw in the Rugby Championship, with Satiti and Surveyor just still knocking around as well, and not just knocking around, knocking people over. With those guys, and as we've touched on, maybe a slightly ageing Irish back row, and certainly with Caelan Doris, who isn't aging, well, everyone's aging, but he is of the right age profile, but he hasn't played. You've got that is going to be where the game is lost. I mean, it often is, but specifically Ireland, New Zealand, with the New Zealand back row, if they get on top, then Ireland will be in trouble. Okay,
well, that for those on the same time zone as us, 8 p.m. on Saturday, we'll see Ireland versus New Zealand in Chicago. It's all set fair to be an absolute blockbuster. Okay, the other match to be aware of that happens on Saturday, Scotland face the United States. I think we can all assume it'll be pretty disastrous if Scotland use the US.
That would be the upset of the century, I think.
But you say that, in my lifetime, I've seen Scotland get a significant win away on tour and then go to face the US in Texas and lose that game. So, wonders continually happen. But it would be an absolute shock if that happens. Okay. Plenty of rugby to come this weekend. Next, though, we're going to be talking about your questions, because it doesn't all have to come from me. Jeremy in the booth has very kindly sent me your questions in. I love doing this because we always get the handles of people's names. I don't know which social media this is from, but always fantastic to get. This one, and I'm going to start with you, Charles. This one is from Honey Badger. I don't know if it is the Honey Badger. Be great if it was.
That would be fantastic. If it
Has Stewart's one-on-one tackling improved enough for him to be England's 15, or is Freeman the answer? Got Stewart's super strength in the air with more pace and better defence, and is Arundel still an option at 15? So I suppose this comes back to your question on the back three, really.
I don't think we'll see Henry Arundel at 15, he says now, and then that will be the story of the week, won't it? So there we go, clip that up. I don't think we'll see Henry Arundel at 15. Freeman, as I said earlier, is an option. On Stewart, his one-on-one tackling, that's slightly misleading, slightly unfair. His one-on-one tackling is excellent. It's the turn of pace. He gets done by quick wingers, and he can make.
It's when he has to make that angle.
Yes, sometimes he is made to look a little bit foolish, but through no really fault of his own. It's just that quick man beats slower man. It's literally that. So it's not a question of his defence. It's not a question of his one-on-one tackling. It's a question of more his acceleration and his speed. Has that improved enough? Well, I don't think I wouldn't not pick him because of that, but I just wouldn't pick him because of the way that the team needs to play and out pace now without these big chunky guys, as I've said before, and I would have a rapid back three. But I'm not picking him because I don't think Freddie Stewart is good enough. I do think Freddie Stewart is good enough.
Gav, Arundel's the interesting element of this, isn't he? Because obviously he played in that World Cup and it was barely used until he scored a bucket load of tries.
5 against Chile?
In a test, and then off he went to France, and that was that, and we didn't see him. And he's back, and he looks explosive going forward, but he's always looked explosive going forward. And it's where he fits into a sort of Borthwick game plan, really.
Yeah, that's true. Although, again, X factor, out and out pace.
Yeah.
I mean, you just can't. Ireland would die for a player of his pace. He's there. It's up to him to round his game off. And I think at the minute it is. We've got injuries in the back three. No George Furbank, no Elliot Daly, who I think could be quite significant in the next 2 years as well, given his form for the Lions. But ultimately, you've got Manny is there back as well, looking fantastic, and Freeman coming off a Lions tour. Most likely to start in the wing on Saturday, but I think, internationally, we're going to see him probably move more to 13. You could play 15 as well, but I think England are looking at him as a 13 going forward. So,
well, he said
the
himself,
competition is there, and Freddie Stewart, what we do know is defensive work is something he's really working on. So it's not something that has gone unnoticed.
Yeah,
honey.
Okay. Thank you, sweetheart. This one's from Dave, and actually it's the same sort of theme, so I'm going to take what Dave's asked here and just sort of change it a little bit for you, Gav. He's asked, what did England do about the fly half, centres, wing and fullback? We've sort of addressed that a little bit, but actually, in terms of makeup of centres, we sort of danced around the idea of Freeman playing centre in the recent past as well. But what would you make of the ideal pairing from this England group for centre?
Gosh, that's a great question. I mean, it's an evolving one. I really like Fraser Dingwall. I liked the impact that he made during last year's Six Nations. Borthwick described him as a glue player. You can see his standing within the Northampton group. And again, if you're looking at Finn Smith at 10 and Dingwall, Ollie Lawrence again.
Ollie Lawrence feels undeniable when
he will start. He will start
undeniable. And then it's if you're getting Freeman in there and Lawrence,
you have to play Lawrence at 12.
Yeah,
you really need a fullback distributor.
Yeah, that's key. And this is the thing about the back. This is one of the most intriguing things. The backline decision for me with England is they want 2 distributors. Where do you get them? Doesn't necessarily have to be at 12. So you can have a fullback doing it, but then who's available at the time, who's not, who's playing well, who's fit. But ultimately, I think if you're looking at Lawrence and Freeman, that's a physical, impactful and quick.
No matter who starts at 10 on Saturday, if Marcus Smith is not at 15, i.e. it is Stewart, Freeman or a curveball of somebody else, then it has to be one of Dingwall or Slade at 12. There's nobody else. They have to have another distributor. And if they don't have one at 15, they have to have one at 12. So therefore, Dingwall becomes very, very important because although Slade played in the Six Nations, you'd probably say that Dingwall is, for the World Cup, more likely option than Slade, and then you'd have Lawrence at 13.
So this comes down to another one of form, because Slade is playing exceptionally well for Exeter.
Yeah. So, but he always plays pretty well for Exeter, to be honest. He's just a very good rugby player, to be honest.
Also, it comes back to the point I made earlier. It's like these are knowns we're working with here. Henry Slade is not miraculously changed as a player.
No.
Okay.
It would be a conservative call, I think, to go Slade Lawrence.
Yeah,
I think it would be a conservative. I think the bolder call would be Dingwall Lawrence. But does he just think that is fundamentally not as good as Slade Lawrence? I mean, that's what it's going to come down to.
And this last one has been sent in to Charlie. Someone has slid into his DM. Sorry, we didn't get a name, but thank you very much for sending this in. And they have asked Charlie, who in turn has asked us, thoughts on the return of A teams in rugby. They seem to be flooding back. England, Ireland and Scotland all have something going on this weekend. And I suppose, Gav, this comes down to the quest of players who can play at a higher level, to find players that can play at a higher level, albeit a slightly higher level. With the A games.
It's fantastic. They should never have gone away.
Completely agreed.
They should never have gone away. It's brilliant that they're coming back, and it just enables the squads to take a few more chances. You're looking at players again, looking at you look through the club teams. Who's a player who has test match potential? It doesn't have to be form. It doesn't have to be, you may not be first choice for your club side, and it just gives those coaches a chance to broaden their depth of talent, see it at a higher level than you get in
and the cynic in me also wonders if, I can't remember where we are with tying people internationally, but there's probably an element of that to it as well.
Yeah. I mean, going back to Caluori, if he doesn't play for the first team, he will play for the A team. And then we will see that, that bridging of the gap, and it's become incredibly valuable to Steve Borthwick, those A games. You look at Joe Hayes was playing England A last season, and now he's really pushing Will Stewart for that starting berth. He started in Argentina and was exceptional. Ashipoku Fajura's played A. Tom Willis played A. Loads of these guys have played A-team rugby, and plenty also have played A-team rugby who are not featuring. So it really has become
a testing ground,
a real testing ground, regardless of whether they beat Portugal, by 90 points or whatever it was. Clearly, there's stuff that Guy Pepper. Clearly, there is stuff that he's seen in those games where he's gone, yes, that's what I want to see, or that's not what I want to see.
I'm going to lock eyes with you on this one, though, Charles, because you're an old man in a young man's body.
Okay.
Where do you feel on the nickname for the A? Does it have to be strictly A? I remember it was England Saxons for many years.
I'm actually glad that Saxons
I actually think I campaigned for a while for it to be like the Scottish Stags or something like that, just to jazz it up a little bit. You strike me as a firm no.
Yeah, I liked England A. England A. Let's keep it as England A. It was England A. It was England B originally. I don't really know why we had to get rid of
Or you
England.
can have an England 15.
Or it is a France 15, isn't it? It was a France 15 that came to England, came to Twickenham, the Allianz Stadium. Apologies, RFU, in the summer just before they flew to Argentina. I mean, Irish Wolfhounds. I mean, come on.
Like, this was really a trick question. Of course, the big Leicester Tigers star was going to want something with letters ABC on the back of it. Yeah. Brilliant. Well, thank you very much for your questions. We're going to be rumbling all the way through autumn, so please, as and when, send in any questions for us. No matter how, as you've just seen from the last 2 minutes, no matter how ridiculous it is, we'll try and field it. Thank you very much to Gav for joining us in the studio for the first time. Charles, welcome back. Test rugby, here we are. It's going to be a big week. England are playing against Australia this Saturday. Ireland are playing against New Zealand in Chicago. We've also got Scotland in action. We'll be picking through all next week. In the meantime, keep your eyes on Telegraph Sport. We've got some fantastic stuff, as Gav trailed earlier, coming this week. And then we've got that big first England team announcement that we'll be picking the bones out of. All sorts of shenanigans going on. Thanks very much.
Home to the world-renowned Emirates Dubai Sevens. Dubai is the ultimate destination for a sporting break. With a packed events calendar every year, including the DP World Tour Golf Championship and the Dubai Tennis Championships. There are lots of opportunities to witness world-class sport in action. Away from the stands, you'll find plenty of ways to have an active adventure holiday of your own. Try your hand at paddle, the world's fastest-growing sport. Walk the breathtaking hiking trails of the Hatter Mountains. Or rent a bike and cycle alongside spectacular skylines. The only problem will be deciding which you want to do first. Swap the winter chill for sunshine and plan your sporty getaway at visitdubai.com.